The starward Hope drifted through the endless black of space. Captain Laura stood at the viewing window of her ship and watched the stars pass by like distant fireflies. This was the moment humanity had waited for. The first faster-than-light journey beyond their own solar system. The first step into a universe they had only dreamed about. "Captain, we have contacts on the scanner," said Commander Jake from his station. His voice was calm, but there was tension beneath it. "Many contacts. I count 47 vessels surrounding us." Laura turned from the window and walked to the main console. The holographic display showed their ship at the center of a massive formation. Alien warships of all shapes and sizes had appeared from nowhere. Some were long and elegant like silver needles. Others were bulky and covered with weapons. All of them were pointed directly at the starward Hope. "They came fast," Laura said quietly. "We barely crossed into this sector." Ambassador Nora stepped onto the bridge. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. Earth had chosen her for this mission because she never showed fear, even when she felt it. "They were waiting for us. Someone or something knew we would come." The communication panel lit up with an incoming signal. Jake looked at Laura for permission. She nodded once. A face appeared on the screen, though calling it a face felt wrong. The creature was tall and thin with a body like an insect. Its eyes were large and completely black. When it spoke, its mandibles clicked together between words. "I am Counselor Al of the Galactic Council. You have entered protected space. Identify yourselves and your intentions." Laura stepped forward. "I am Captain Laura of Earth. We come in peace. We are explorers, not invaders." Al studied her for a long moment. "Earth, we have no record of this world. You are an unknown species. This is concerning. I will board your vessel to conduct an assessment. Do not resist." The transmission ended before Laura could respond. Jake immediately moved toward the weapons locker. "Captain, we cannot let an unknown alien onto this ship. We have no idea what they want." "Stand down, Commander," Laura said firmly. "If we show aggression now, those 47 ships will turn us into dust. We came here to make contact. This is contact." 20 minutes later, Counselor Al walked through the airlock with 2 armed guards behind him. He was even taller in person, nearly 8 feet, and he moved with a strange grace that made Laura uncomfortable. His black eyes scanned everything: the walls, the equipment, the humans who stood before him. "Interesting," Al said. "Your technology is primitive but functional. You achieved faster-than-light travel with remarkably limited resources. The Council will want to study your methods." Nora stepped forward with a diplomatic smile. "We would be happy to share our knowledge with the Council. In exchange, we hope to learn about the galaxy and find our place within it." Al made a sound that might have been laughter. "Your place will be determined by this assessment. All new species must undergo evaluation. It is standard procedure." He turned to one of his guards and took a small device from him. It looked like a metal rod with a glowing tip. "This is a neural probe. It will allow me to understand your species at a biological level. Who will volunteer?" No one moved. Laura felt the tension in the room grow thick like fog. She was about to step forward herself when Jake walked past her. "I will do it," Jake said. His jaw was tight, but his eyes were steady. "Let us get this over with." Al approached Jake and raised the neural probe to his temple. "This will not hurt. Simply relax and allow the device to read your neural patterns." The probe touched Jake's skin. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Jake's body went rigid. His eyes rolled back. His hands began to shake. Laura had seen Jake in combat. She had seen him face death without flinching. She had never seen him look like this. "What are you doing to him?" Laura demanded. "The probe is simply reading his mind," Al said calmly. "All species submit to this process. It is painless." Jake screamed. It was a sound of pure rage, not pain. His hand shot up and grabbed Al's wrist with crushing force. The neural probe clattered to the floor. Before anyone could react, Jake had thrown one guard across the room and slammed the other into the wall. His movements were fast and brutal, driven by an instinct older than thought. "Jake, stop!" Laura grabbed him from behind and pulled him back. It took all her strength to hold him. "Stand down, that is an order." Jake's breathing was heavy. His eyes slowly focused again. He looked at the injured guards, at the shocked expression on Al's alien face, and then at his own hands. "I could not stop it," he said quietly. "Something was trying to get inside my head. I could not let it in." Al picked up his neural probe with trembling hands. In 12,000 years, no species had ever resisted the device. No species had ever reacted with such immediate and violent force. He looked at Jake and saw something that he had never seen before, something that made his ancient blood run cold. "This assessment is complete," Al said. His voice had lost its calm authority. "I must return to the council immediately." He left without another word. His guards limped behind him, casting fearful glances at Jake as they went. Laura watched them go and felt a weight settle in her stomach. Whatever had just happened, it had changed everything. 3 hours later, the alien warships pulled back. A single message arrived on the communication panel. It was from Counselor Al, addressed to the full Galactic Council, but to the Starward Hope. Laura read it in silence while her crew gathered around her. The message was short. It contained only one phrase that mattered, one phrase that would spread through the galaxy like wildfire. One phrase that would make every species in known space look toward the small blue planet called Earth with new eyes. They do not submit. And for the first time in 12,000 years, the Galactic Council felt something they had forgotten existed. They felt afraid. Counselor Myra's had lived for 400 years. She had studied over 200 species in her long life. She had seen empires rise and fall. She had watched civilizations destroy themselves and others rebuild from nothing. But she had never encountered anything like humans. She sat in her research chamber on Prime, the great capital world of the Galactic Council. Her serpentine body was coiled around her reading platform as she scrolled through the data that had arrived from Earth. The humans had been generous with their history. They had shared everything openly, hiding nothing. Myra's wished they had hidden something, anything. "This cannot be accurate," she whispered to herself. Her scales rippled with distress. The records showed wars that lasted decades, weapons that could burn entire cities in seconds. Humans had split the atom and immediately used it to kill hundreds of thousands of their own kind. They had built death camps. They had enslaved each other based on the color of their skin. They had destroyed their own planet's environment for profit and watched their ice caps melt. Myra's closed her eyes. She had seen violent species before. There were raiders who lived for battle. They had once tried to conquer half the galaxy, but all of those species had directed their violence outward at others. Humans directed it at themselves. They were their own worst enemy. And yet the data showed something else as well, something that Myra's could not understand. After every disaster, humans rebuilt. After every war, they made peace. After every act of cruelty, there were acts of kindness that explanation. Soldiers who threw themselves on explosives to save their friends. Strangers who ran into burning buildings to rescue children they had never met. Ordinary people who stood against evil even when it meant their death. The door to her chamber opened. A human male walked in with a gentle smile on his face. Dr. Shaw was who had been assigned to help with her research. He was young by human standards, with brown hair and kind eyes behind simple glasses. "Good morning, Counselor," he said. "You look troubled. Can I help with anything?" Myra's uncoiled slightly and gestured at her screens. "I am trying to understand your species, Dr. Shaw, but the more I learn, the less I comprehend. Your history is full of horror, yet you have not destroyed yourselves. How is this possible?" Sat down across from her. He was quiet for a moment, thinking about his answer. "We are capable of great darkness," he said finally. "That is true, but we are also capable of choosing something different. Every day, every human being wakes up and makes a choice. We can give in to our worst instincts or we can fight against them. Most of us choose to fight." "But why?" Myra's leaned forward with genuine curiosity. "Other species in this council achieved peace by removing their capacity for violence. They edited their genetics. They conditioned their young. They made it impossible to harm others. You did none of these things." "No," agreed. "We kept our capacity for violence. We kept our anger and our fear and our hatred, but we also built laws to control them. We created philosophies to guide us. We told stories about heroes who chose good over evil, and those stories shaped who we wanted to become. Our peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the constant choice to be better than we could be." Before Myra's could respond, an alarm screamed through the station. Red lights flashed in the corridor outside, jumped to his feet. "What is happening?" Myra's asked. The answer came through the communication system. A cold voice announced that the station had been seized by the Purity Collective, a group of aliens who believed humans were a threat to galactic peace. They had taken hostages in the diplomatic wing. They were demanding that all humans be expelled from Council space. His face went pale. The diplomatic wing, that is where our ambassador is stationed. They made their way through the chaos of the station. Council security forces were gathering, but they seemed uncertain. The Purity Collective had chosen their moment well. Most of the station's defenses were focused outward, not inward. Near the diplomatic wing, and Myra's found a group of council officers hiding behind a barricade. One of them was speaking into a communicator with panic in his voice. They have sealed the doors. We cannot get through without heavy weapons, and if we use heavy weapons, the hostages will die. A human woman pushed through the crowd. She was small but moved with the confidence of someone much larger. Lieutenant Amy Cole wore the uniform of Earth's security forces. Her face was calm, almost serene. "How many hostiles inside?" she asked. "6," the officer replied. "All armed, all willing to die for their cause." Amy nodded once, then she walked toward the sealed doors, grabbed her arm. "What are you doing? You cannot fight 6 armed soldiers alone." Amy looked at him with eyes that held no fear. "Our people are in there. I am going to get them out." She pulled her arm free and kept walking. What happened next would be shown on every screen in the galaxy within hours. Amy Cole broke through a maintenance hatch and entered the diplomatic wing alone. The security cameras captured everything. She moved through the corridors like a ghost, silent and deadly. The first terrorist never saw her coming. She took his weapon and used it against the second. The remaining 4 turned their guns on her. She was hit twice, once in the shoulder and once in the leg. She did not stop. She kept moving, kept fighting, kept pushing forward with blood running down her body. When her weapon ran empty, she used her hands. When she could no longer stand, she crawled. 6 terrorists entered that wing. None of them walked out. Amy Cole did walk out barely, with 3 wounded hostages leaning on her for support. She collapsed at the barricade with a faint smile on her face. "Hostages secure," she whispered before losing consciousness. Myra's watched the footage 17 times. She watched a single human female, wounded and bleeding, defeat 6 trained soldiers through nothing but willpower. She watched Amy Cole refuse to stop even when her body was failing. She watched and she finally understood. Her report to the council contained one conclusion. Humans are not dangerous because of what they can do. They are dangerous because nothing can make them stop. They will fight until their bodies break. They will keep fighting after that, and they will never ever give up. The council read her words and the fear in their hearts grew deeper. Outpost was a small research station on the edge of council space. It floated in the darkness between stars, far from help and far from hope. The scientists who worked there studied the strange life forms that drifted through the cosmic void. The soldiers who protected them spent most of their time being bored. Sergeant Danny Brooks stood at his post near the main airlock and tried to stay awake. He was a tall man with a shaved head and arms covered in old scars. He had fought in 3 conflicts on Earth before joining the space program. He had seen enough violence to last a lifetime. He had hoped that the stars would be peaceful. He was wrong. The first warning came at 300 station time. Sensors detected a fleet of unknown vessels approaching fast. By 3:15, the vessels had surrounded the outpost. By 3:30, they had begun their assault. There were a warrior species that lived for battle. They were large and powerful, with 4 arms and skin like stone. They had raided council borders for centuries, taking what they wanted and killing anyone who resisted. They had never known defeat. They had never known fear. High Commander Orr led the attack personally. He watched from his flagship as his warriors tore through the station's defenses. The council soldiers fought bravely, but they were overwhelmed within 2 hours. Those who survived surrendered and were taken prisoner. But something strange happened as Orr's troops secured the station. Reports came in from every sector. 12 beings had refused to surrender. 12 beings continued to fight even though the battle was clearly lost. Or checked the species classification in his database. The answer made him curious. Humans, the new species that everyone was talking about. Danny Brooks had gathered all 12 humans in a cargo bay deep inside the station, 8 Marines and 4 scientists. They were outnumbered and completely surrounded. The logical thing to do was surrender. The smart thing to do was surrender. "We are not surrendering," Danny said flatly. "Those alien soldiers just killed 3 of our friends. They will kill the rest of us too if we give them the chance. So we do not give them the chance. We fight." Dr. Foster raised her hand. She was a civilian scientist who had never held a weapon in her life. Her specialty was alien ecosystems, not warfare. "Sergeant, I understand the desire to resist, but we are 4 scientists and 8 soldiers against 400 warriors. What can we possibly do?" Danny smiled grimly. "We can make them pay for every inch of this station. We can make them bleed. We can make them wish they had never heard of humans." For 6 days, 12 humans held outpost against 400 warriors. They used every trick Danny had learned in his years of combat. They set traps in corridors and explosives in doorways. They attacked from vents and retreated through maintenance tunnels. They turned the station into a nightmare maze where death waited around every corner. They could not understand what was happening. They had conquered worlds. They had destroyed armies. They had never faced an enemy like this. These humans were wounded and starving and running out of ammunition. By every measure, they should have broken. They should have surrendered. They should have begged for mercy. Instead, they kept fighting. On the 3rd day, Orr sent his elite guard to end the resistance. 50 of his best warriors, the finest soldiers in the fleet, only 23 returned. They spoke of a human male with cold eyes who moved through the shadows like death itself. They spoke of traps that killed without warning. They spoke of enemies who laughed as they died and took with them. On the 5th day, something happened that changed everything. A group of warriors cornered Foster in a medical bay. She was alone and unarmed. One of the warriors had been carrying a prize from the earlier battle, a young alien child from one of the council species, a prisoner meant for slavery. The child broke free and ran toward, seeking protection from the only being in the room who was not trying to hurt it. The warrior raised his weapon to kill them both. Foster picked up a broken pipe from the floor. She had never harmed another living creature in her life. She was a scientist who studied the beauty of alien life. She was gentle and kind and believed in peace. She killed the warrior with 3 strikes. Then she killed the second one who came through the door. When it was over, she stood in the middle of the medical bay, covered in alien blood with a trembling child in her arms. Her hands were shaking. Her mind was screaming. But the child was safe. Nothing else mattered. Danny found her an hour later, still holding the child, still standing guard over the door. He did not say anything. He did not need to. He simply nodded with respect and helped her back to their hiding place. On the 6th day, Council reinforcements finally arrived. A fleet of warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel and surrounded the station. They expected to find the humans dead. They expected to find the celebrating their victory. Instead, they found the retreating to their ships. They found 400 warriors fleeing from 12 exhausted, bleeding, barely standing humans. They found Orr himself broadcasting a message to the entire galaxy. "We withdraw our raids from Council borders. We will not return. We have found something in this station that we have never encountered before. We have found an enemy that does not break, an enemy that does not surrender, an enemy that fights to the death and beyond." The High Commander paused. His voice, always so confident and cruel, trembled slightly. "These humans are not prey. They are something else entirely. They are what we were always afraid existed somewhere in the universe. They are predators who wear the skin of peaceful beings, and when you threaten what they love, they will show you what they truly are." The fleet disappeared into the void. They never raided Council space again. Danny Brooks sat down on the floor of the cargo bay and closed his eyes. His body was broken. His friends had died, but they had won. 12 humans against 400 warriors, and they had won. The galaxy watched and the galaxy remembered, and the fear spread deeper still. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council was the largest structure ever built by intelligent beings. It floated in orbit above Prime, a massive sphere of glass and metal that could hold representatives from every species in known space. Today it was full. Every seat was taken. Every eye was focused on the platform in the center. Ambassador Peter Grant stood alone on that platform. He was an ordinary-looking man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had spent his whole life as a diplomat, solving problems with words instead of weapons. He had talked his way out of wars and into peace treaties. But this was different. This was the most important speech any human had ever given. The Council was voting on humanity's permanent status. 3 options sat before them. Full membership would give humans all the rights and protections of Council citizens. Restricted contact would allow limited trade, but keep humans isolated from galactic society. Quarantine would seal Earth away forever, trapped behind a wall of warships until the end of time. Councilor N spoke first. He was a massive creature with thick gray skin and small, angry eyes. He represented a species that had once tried to conquer the galaxy before being defeated by the Council. They knew what dangerous species looked like. They believed humans were worse. "I have studied these beings," En said. His voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "They are monsters wearing the mask of civilization. In their short history, they have killed millions of their own kind. They created weapons capable of ending all life on their planet, and they used them. They poisoned their own world for profit. They are violent, unpredictable, and completely without restraint." He pointed at Peter with one massive finger. "We have seen what happens when humans feel threatened. A single female killed 6 armed soldiers, 12 of them held off 400 warriors. Imagine what they could do with a fleet of warships. Imagine what they would do to us if they decided we were their enemy." The chamber murmured with agreement. Peter could feel the fear in the room. It pressed against him from all sides. "I say we quarantine Earth before it is too late," En finished. "Lock them away and pray they never escape." Peter waited for the murmurs to die down. Then he stepped forward and began to speak. "Everything Counselor N has said is true. Humans are capable of terrible violence. Our history is written in blood. We have done things that shame us, things that we can never take back or make right. We know this. We live with this knowledge every day of our lives." He paused and looked around the chamber. Thousands of alien eyes stared back at him. "But Counselor N only told you half the story. Yes, we created weapons that could destroy cities, but we also created laws to prevent their use. Yes, we fought wars that killed millions, but we also built organizations dedicated to peace, and those organizations have prevented more wars than you can count. Yes, we damaged our planet, but we also recognized our mistake and began to heal the damage, even when it cost us greatly." Peter's voice grew stronger. "You want to know what makes humans different from every other violent species in this galaxy? We know we are dangerous. We look in the mirror and we see the monster looking back. And every single day we choose to be something else. We choose kindness over cruelty. We choose mercy over revenge. We choose to protect the weak instead of preying on them." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small device. Images began to appear in the air above him. A soldier throwing himself on an explosive to save his friends. A stranger running into a burning building to rescue a child. Ordinary people standing in front of tanks to protest injustice. Doctors traveling to war zones to heal the wounded. Teachers risking their lives to protect their students. "These are also humans," Peter said quietly. "These are the people who define us, not the killers and the conquerors, but the helpers and the healers, the ones who see darkness and choose to be light, the ones who know they could hurt others and decide instead to help them." Counselor Ra rose from her seat. She was a delicate creature with large silver eyes and skin that shifted colors with her emotions. Her species was known throughout the galaxy for their empathy. They could feel the emotions of others as clearly as their own. "I have touched human minds," Ra said softly. "I have felt what they feel, and I can tell you that Ambassador Grant speaks the truth. Humans carry a war inside themselves, a constant battle between light and darkness. Every other species in this council achieved peace by eliminating their capacity for violence. Humans achieved peace while keeping that capacity intact. They are not safe. They will never be safe, but that is exactly what makes them valuable." She turned to face the full assembly. "The galaxy is not a safe place. We have enemies beyond our borders. We have threats we cannot predict. And when those threats come, we will need allies who can fight. Not species who have forgotten how to be dangerous, but species who remember and choose not to be. Humans are those allies." The debate continued for hours. Arguments were made on all sides. Fear battled against hope. Suspicion fought with curiosity. Peter Grant stood through all of it, answering every question, addressing every concern, defending his species with nothing but words and truth. Finally, the vote was called. Representatives from 47 species entered their decisions into the central computer. The result would take only moments to calculate. Peter closed his eyes and waited for the judgment of the galaxy. He never heard it. Alarms screamed throughout the grand chamber. Red lights flashed on every surface. The main activated and showed something that made every being in the room freeze with terror. A fleet had appeared at the edge of Council space. Thousands of warships, each one larger than anything the Council possessed. They moved in perfect formation, a wall of death advancing toward Prime. Counselor Al's voice cut through the chaos. "The Dominion, they have returned." "The Dominion. The name was ancient, almost forgotten. They were the conquerors who had destroyed the Council's founders 10,000 years ago. They had disappeared into the void, and everyone had hoped they were gone forever. They were not gone, they had been waiting, and now they had come to finish what they started. Peter Grant looked at thee and felt something cold settle in his stomach. The vote no longer mattered. Nothing mattered except survival. The galaxy was about to burn, and humanity had a choice to make. On the bridge of the Starward Hope, Captain Laura received the news. She looked at her crew and saw the same determination in their eyes that she felt in her heart. Earth was far away. They had no orders. They had no obligation to fight. They were going to fight anyway. "Set course for Prime," Laura said. "Maximum speed. Let us show the galaxy what humans do when their friends are in danger." Dominion fleet stretched across the void like a wall of death. 3,000 warships, each one built for a single purpose, destruction. They had conquered 100 worlds 10,000 years ago. They had destroyed civilizations that made the Council look primitive, and now they had returned to finish the job. The Council fleet gathered to defend Prime. 800 ships from 47 species formed a desperate line between the Dominion and the capital world. It was not enough. Everyone knew it was not enough. The math was simple and cruel. They were outnumbered nearly 4-1. They were going to die. On the bridge of the Council flagship, Counselor Al watched the enemy approach. His ancient heart felt heavy with despair. He had lived for over 300 years. He had guided the Council through countless crises, but this was different. This was the end. "Counselor," his communications officer said quietly, "we are receiving a transmission from the humans." Al almost laughed. The humans, 17 ships. Earth had sent every vessel they could spare, and it was 17 ships. What could 17 ships do against 3,000? He accepted the transmission anyway. Captain Laura appeared on his screen. Her face was calm, almost peaceful. Behind her, he could see her crew preparing for battle. "Counselor Al," Laura said, "we know the odds, we know what we are facing, we are coming anyway." "Captain, there is nothing you can do. 17 ships cannot change the outcome of this battle. You should retreat while you still can. Save your people." Laura smiled. It was a strange smile, full of something Al could not identify. "With respect, Counselor, you do not understand humans very well yet. We did not come here to change the odds. We came here because you are in danger. And when our friends are in danger, we do not run." She turned to her crew. "All hands, battle stations. Today we show the galaxy what humanity is made of." The human fleet charged. It should have been suicide, 17 small ships against an armada. The Dominion barely noticed them at first. They were focused on the Council fleet, on the real threat. The humans were insects, barely worth the ammunition to destroy. That was their mistake. The human ships hit the Dominion formation like a fist through glass. They did not fight like Council species. They did not maintain safe distances or careful formations. They flew directly into the enemy, guns blazing, accepting damage they should not have survived. They rammed Dominion vessels and kept firing as they burned. They launched boarding parties onto enemy ships and fought hand-to-hand in the corridors. The Dominion had never seen anything like it. Their commanders tried to adapt, but the humans were too unpredictable, too willing to sacrifice themselves, too completely without fear. Every time the Dominion killed one human ship, 2 more appeared from the wreckage, damaged but still fighting. On the bridge of a Dominion cruiser, Sergeant Danny Brooks led a team of Marines through waves of enemy soldiers. He was wounded in 3 places. He had lost half his team. He kept moving forward. The enemy fell before him like wheat before a scythe. "Where is the command deck?" he shouted to the Marine beside him. "2 levels up, Sergeant, but there must be 100 soldiers between us and there." Danny checked his ammunition, almost empty. His body was failing, his vision was starting to blur. None of it mattered. "Then we kill 100 soldiers," he said simply. "Move out." They reached the command deck with 4 Marines still standing. Danny kicked down the door and faced the Dominion Admiral across a room full of shocked officers. The Admiral was massive, covered in armor, surrounded by guards. He looked at the bleeding human who had invaded his ship and felt something he had not experienced in 10,000 years. Fear. Danny Brooks killed him anyway. Outside, the battle was turning. The Council fleet had watched the humans fight, and something had changed inside them. Species that had forgotten how to be brave remembered. Ships that had been hanging back joined the charge. The fear that had paralyzed them transformed into something else, something fiercer. If the humans could fight like this, so could they. The Dominion fleet began to break apart. Their perfect formations crumbled, their confidence shattered. They had expected easy prey, not this. Not enemies who would not stop, not allies who would die for each other, not humans. When the Dominion finally retreated, they left behind over 1,000 destroyed ships. The Council had lost 200. The humans had lost 9 of their 17, over half their fleet gone in a single battle. But they had won. Against all odds, against all logic, they had won. The Grand Chamber was silent as the representatives gathered for the final vote. Counselor Al stood at the central platform. Captain Laura stood beside him, her arm in a sling, her uniform still stained with blood. She had refused medical treatment until the vote was complete. "The vote is unanimous," Al announced. "Humanity is granted full membership in the Galactic Council." Applause echoed through the chamber. Representatives from 47 species rose to their feet, but Al raised his hand for silence. He had more to say. "6 months ago, a human vessel entered our space. We surrounded them with warships because we did not know what they were. We tested them with our neural probe and were shocked when they resisted. We read their history and saw only violence and darkness. We feared them because they were dangerous, unpredictable, and completely unlike anything we had ever encountered." He turned to look at Laura. "We were right to fear them. Humans are all of those things, but we were wrong about what that meant." He faced the assembly again. "Today, I watched 17 human ships charge into a battle they could not win. I watched them die for strangers they had known for only 6 months. I watched them fight with a fury that turned the tide of war, and I finally understood what humanity truly is." His voice grew soft but carried to every corner of the chamber. "We feared what humans might do to us. We never imagined what they would do for us. They came to our rescue not because they had to, but because they chose to. They fought not for territory or resources, but for friendship. They gave their lives not because they did not value them, but because they valued something more." Laura stepped forward. "Counselor, if I may." Al nodded. "We did not come here to make you fear us. We came here to find our place in the universe. We hoped to find allies. Instead, we found family, and family protects each other, always." She looked out at the assembly. "You do not need to fear humanity, but if you threaten what we love, if you hurt our friends, if you come for the innocent and the helpless, then yes, be afraid, be very afraid, because we will find you, we will fight you, and we will not stop until you are dust." Her voice softened. "But if you come in peace, if you offer friendship, if you stand beside us in the darkness, then you will never have better allies. That is the promise of humanity. That is who we are." The chamber was silent for a long moment. Then Counselor Ra began to applaud. Others joined her. Soon the entire assembly was on its feet, cheering for the species they had once feared. And from that day forward, no species in the known galaxy dared to threaten the Galactic Council. Not because of their ancient fleets or mighty armies, but because humanity had answered the call. And humanity never ever stops.